When I try to kick him, I just put halfway his feet in my face. And they stop there, I pose. They ask me, how is it?
When I tried to kick him, I just put halfway he fit in my face, and they stopped there by post. They asked me how his Bruce Lee's feats are so wild you'd think they came straight out of a superhero comic. Buddy truly real from his famous 1-inch punch to the time he kicked a 135 kilograms bag like it was nothing. Bruce SM smashed every limit. We thought we knew if cameras hadn't caught these epic moments nobody would believe they happened. Riodito, see the insane proof that made Bruce Lee a legend. Buckle up, because each of these stories will blow your mind. The 1-inch punch, Bruce Lee's famous 1-inch punch, is a perfect example of how raw power can seem almost magical when combined with technique, speed, and focus. At first glance you might think there's no way a person could generate enough force to knock someone backward from just an inch away, yet Bruce Lee made this look effortless on multiple occasions. While many martial artists rely on large, exaggerated movements to build up power, Lee believed that true efficiency comes from compressing your strike into the smallest possible space, then unleashing all that energy in one explosive burst to make his 1-inch punch so effective. Bruce Lee used an entire chain of motion that started from his legs. He would plant his feet firmly, letting the ground act as a solid base. Next he'd push through his legs, transfer that energy into his hips, then into his torso, and finally through his arm and fist. Each piece of his body moved in quick succession because he condensed this motion into mere milliseconds. The punch was both sudden and extremely potent. Observers often described it as though a jolt of electricity had just passed through the target. Another essential factor in Lee's 1-inch punch was his incredible speed. Early film cameras frequently failed to capture the full snap of his punches because he moved quicker than 24 frames per second. Lee had to slow down on set just so directors could show audiences what he was actually doing off camera. He could unleash a strike in the blink of an eye, leaving training partners momentarily stunned, or even sent flying backward into a chair. Bruce Lee's background in Wing Chun played a significant role in perfecting the 1-inch punch. Wing Chun specializes in direct close-quarters techniques. By modifying an existing short-range move, Lee refined it into something truly extraordinary. He tinkered with different stances and angles, aiming to create maximum force from minimal distance. The end result was a seemingly impossible blow that amazed crowds whenever he demonstrated it publicly. The 1-inch punch also reflected Lee's philosophy, simplicity and directness. He believed in stripping away wasted motion and harnessing the essence of each technique. According to those who saw it firsthand, the punch was never about brute strength, it was about fluidity, alignment, and total body coordination. That is why decades later the mere mention of Bruce Lee's 1-inch punch still captivates martial artists and everyday fans alike. It remains an enduring testament to how mastery of technique and lightning speed can overcome the usual limits of human power. Superhuman strength and fitness. Bruce Lee wasn't merely a gifted martial artist, he was also known for displaying what many considered superhuman strength and fitness. Despite weighing around 140 pounds at his peak, Lee's feat of power left even top athletes in awe. For instance, there are stories of him easily kicking a 135 kilograms heavy bag several feet into the air, a task that would be daunting for someone twice his size. Ordinary punching bags proved too flimsy under his strike, so he had to rely on extra heavy ones that wouldn't tear apart after a few forceful kicks. One of Lee's most legendary demonstrations involved 2-finger push-ups. Most people struggled to do a handful of standard push-ups, yet Bruce Lee could support his entire body on just one hand and 2 extended fingers. She was said to knock out hundreds of these 2-finger push-up UPS in a single session, and even managed 1-finger push-ups on occasion. Guinness World Records recognized his finger push-ups as truly extraordinary, and many have tried but few come close to matching his numbers. In addition to his unique feats, Lee's overall conditioning was second to none. He believed strongly in maintaining a high level of cardiovascular fitness, running long distances a few times a week, alternating with lengthy bike rides or intense jump rope workouts. On other days, this helped him build endurance that paired perfectly with his explosive power. He also devoted countless hours to strengthening his core, performing exercises like the infamous dragon flag, which many strength enthusiasts still practice today. Yet it wasn't just raw physical prowess that set Bruce Lee apart, it was how he combined strength with speed and precision. Film crews often had trouble capturing his lightning-fast kicks and punches on camera, forcing him to slow down so the audience could see his movements. Even more impressive is that his movements retained the same devastating impact when he intentionally reduced his speed. This blend often matched quickness, powerful technique, and sheer physical strength is what made Lee appear almost superhuman to those who witnessed him firsthand. Ultimately, Bruce Lee's approach to training went beyond simple workouts. He embraced a holistic approach, working on flexibility, reflexes, and mental discipline. His desire to refine both body and mind drove him to set the highest standards for martial artists. It's no wonder that so many people, fighters and fans alike, still cite Bruce Lee as an inspiration for pushing the boundaries of human fitness and strength. Multidisciplinary martial arts philosophy. Bruce Lee's lasting legacy goes far beyond flashy kicks or powerful punches. He was also a deep thinker who revolutionized martial arts with his open-minded multidisciplinary approach at a time when many schools taught rigid forms and insisted on sticking to one style. Lee believed that the strongest fighter should flow and adapt rather than remain trapped by rules or traditions. His famous expression, "Be water, my friend," summarizes this idea. Be water, my friend. Like that is it taught that water takes the shape of whatever container it occupies, flowing around or through any obstacle. Lee's journey in martial arts began with Wing Chun under Grandmaster Ip Man, giving him a strong foundation in close quarters defense, but instead of limiting himself, he studied a range of fighting styles, including boxing, fencing, and grappling. He integrated practical lessons from each art into what he eventually called Jeet Kune Do, or the way off the intercepting fist. Rather than creating yet another traditional style, Lee saw Jeet Kune Do as a philosophy of combat that prioritized directness, efficiency, and adaptability. One of the core concepts in Jeet Kune Do is intercepting an opponent's movement. Lee believed that as soon as someone intends to attack, they create an opportunity to be stopped mid-motion. Drawing from fencing, he used the idea of parrying and striking at the same time, a concept often missing in classical kung fu forms. He also added techniques from wrestling and judo, seeing the value in controlling an opponent both standing and on the ground. This open-minded approach to grappling was highly unusual in the 1960s and is seen by many as a prelude to modern MMA. Crucially, Lee encouraged fighters to explore everything that might help them grow. He disliked Slav devotion to set patterns, urging martial artists to absorb what is useful, discard what is useless. That could mean mixing a classic kung fu punch with a boxing jab, or adopting a judo lock to finish a fight quickly. By accepting fresh ideas, the students learned to handle a variety of scenarios, whether facing a short-range brawler, a tall kicker, or a skilled grappler. Perhaps Lee's greatest philosophical influence lies in his emphasis on self-expression. He taught that every fighter is unique and should discover his or her own personal best rather than blindly copying a teacher. These ideas reshaped how the world viewed martial arts, making Bruce Lee an enduring figure who still inspires fighters in mixed martial arts, boxing, and beyond real-life combat skills. Despite his fame as a movie star, Bruce Lee was not just a screen fighter. Accounts from friends, students, and even challengers reveal that he was equally formidable in real-life combat. One of the most cited examples is his 1967 sparring exhibition in California. Though it was a friendly demonstration, the footage shows Lee fluidly dodging every incoming attack while landing clean counters at will. The speed and accuracy in each move made it clear he was no mere actor pretending to fight. He truly knew how to handle himself. Throughout his short life, Lee had several private matches that became part of his legend. Some of these fights took place in closed rooms without cameras or large crowds. He faced opponents from various styles, sometimes having to prove himself to critics who said Chinese kung fu was too soft compared to karate or other disciplines. In one famous incident, a Japanese martial artist challenged Lee's claims that kung fu preceded karate. According to witnesses, Lee took just seconds to overwhelm his rival with a powerful kick to the face that knocked him to the floor. Another well-known story involved Lee's altercation with Wong Jackman in the mid-1960s. Depending on who tells it, the details can vary, but Lee's wife Linda recalled that the fight ended swiftly with Lee dominating the exchange. This push to defend himself confidently, even in non-official bouts, underscored his belief in testing martial arts under realistic conditions. Lee saw formal competitions, which often read certain strikes or techniques, as less genuine. He wanted to see what truly worked when rules were minimal. Lee's willingness to adapt is also credited as a key factor in his real-life prowess, because he pulled ideas from boxing, Wing Chun, fencing, and wrestling. He was rarely caught off guard by a specific style. He was no stranger to grappling, having learned from judo experts and in incorporating arm looks, chokes, and throws into his arsenal even in chaotic street fighting scenarios. Lee's training ensured he was prepared. Many present-day fighters cite Bruce Lee as the reason they took up martial arts in the first place. They point to his real-world effectiveness, not just his cinematic or even decades after his passing. Stories of Bruce Lee's real-life combat skills continue to spark debate. Was he truly unstoppable? We may never know for sure, but the evidence suggests that his abilities were every bit as extraordinary as the iconic on-screen battles that made him a legend. Mastery of nanaku and weapons. Bruce Lee didn't begin his martial arts journey with a love for nunchaku. In fact, once dismissed them as useless and awkward. However, that changed when his friend and training partner Dan Inosanto persuaded him to give these wooden flails a real try. Only a few months later, Bruce was swinging nanaku around like he'd been practicing them for years, and soon they became a core part of his cinematic identity. Before Lee brought them into the spotlight in films like Fist of Fury, nunchaku were only well known among a small circle of martial artists. They'd been around for centuries, but rarely appeared in mainstream movies, especially not in the West. Lee's mastery of these weapons wasn't about sheer force alone. He combined precision, timing, and fluid movement to control the swinging sticks in ways that left viewers stunned rather than flailing. He treated the nunchaku as a natural extension of his own arms, transferring his body's energy straight into each rotation. One of the clearest on-screen examples of his skill can be seen in Game of Death, where Lee faces off against Dan Inosanto himself. Though Bruce tragically passed before the film was completed, the footage that does exist showcases lightning-fast strikes and smooth transitions between offense and defense. Lee's biggest secret lay in mixing the solid foundation of his training rooted in Wing Chun, boxing, and other disciplines with open-minded experimentation. He explored every angle of combat, from hand-to-hand techniques to lesser-used weapons, always seeking fresh ways to improve. Off the movie set, Bruce's talents with nunchaku extended to surprising bits of showmanship. Stories abound of him swatting ping-pong balls and even winning back-and-forth rallies using only nunchaku. These tales highlight the balance, reflexes, and stamina required to handle such an unpredictable weapon. Any miscalculation or hesitation could turn it against its user, yet in Lee's hands the nunchaku looked effortless, as if propelled by invisible wires. Eventually, Bruce Lee's influence sparked a surge of interest in nunchaku worldwide. For many martial arts schools and film productions, it became the cool weapon of choice. At the same time, he inspired novices everywhere to attempt the twirling moves they saw in the movies. Though few ever reached his level of mastery today, nunchaku are still widely associated with Bruce Lee's daring performances as he took a centuries-old weapon and propelled it into pop culture legend. It remains one of the clearest symbols of his creativity, skill, and fearless pursuit of martial arts innovation. Too fast for cameras, Bruce Lee's punches and kicks were so quick that filmmakers in the 1960s and 70s couldn't capture them properly on camera. When he starred as K in The Green Hornet, the production team quickly realized Lee's movements were literally blurring on film. Most cameras at the time recorded at 24 frames per second, which just wasn't enough to display his speed without turning it into a confusing haze. At first, the directors asked him to slow down. Imagine being so fast the audience couldn't see what you were doing, while others might have struggled to fight at a lower gear. Bruce made his moves look clear and still managed to bring that signature intensity to every scene. His blows remained crisp, and viewers got a glimpse of what set him apart from typical fight choreography. Even so, Lee wasn't happy about toning down his natural speed. He knew that a huge part of his charm came from his explosive, near-superhuman striking ability. By the time he worked on films like The Big Boss, Fist of Fury, and Enter the Dragon, Lee adapted in different ways. He sometimes shot fight scenes at higher frame rates, letting the camera pick up his rapid kicks and punches more accurately. This approach resulted in some of the most memorable sequences in martial arts cinema, showcasing the raw energy that left audiences speechless. In certain behind-the-scenes anecdotes, cinematographers confessed they'd never encountered anyone who needed them to adjust camera settings quite so drastically. His speed fed into the Bruce Lee legend. Rumors spread that he could land multiple strikes within a single second, or that he was able to snatch pennies from someone's hand before they could close their fingers. Though some of these stories may be exaggerated enough, first-hand accounts and footage confirm that Bruce Lee really was operating on a different level of quickness. Interestingly, his speed went beyond just arms and legs. His footwork, body shifts, and head movement were equally fast, making him nearly untouchable during demonstrations. Lee effortlessly dodged incoming hits like Amitator avoiding a charging bull. He combined that lightning pace with pinpoint control, so he could stop a blow centimeters from someone's face without hurting them unless he intended to. Rigorous training regime. Bruce Lee's extraordinary feats weren't a matter of luck or simple talent, they came from a grueling training regime that covered cardio, strength, flexibility, and technical drills. He believed a martial artist should be equipped for every scenario, so he pushed himself to the absolute limit. Though he was only around 140 pounds, his conditioning allowed his speed and power to rank among the world's best. Lee's daily routine started with serious cardio. He was known to run 2 to 6 miles on alternating days, mixing in sprint intervals to improve